Morning. We're going to call to order our meeting here for July the 16th. If you wouldn't mind, please stand with us as we have an invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Father, thank you for your wisdom and comfort. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin this morning, just want to pass on a sad note. We lost a friend and a colleague this past week, Mr. Bill Blazak, who was our utilities director here for the county, community activist, was very involved in a lot of activities, Boys and Girls Clubs and others. And so he's going to be sorely missed, but our thoughts and prayers go out to both his family, as well as many friends and colleagues that are here. So with that, I'd like to move on to this morning's agenda with the minutes, proclamations approval. Is there a motion for that this morning? Chairman, move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That we are going to go down for our proclamations and our presentations this morning. So with that, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Resolution 2013-120, a resolution proclaiming the month of July 2013 as Marine Debris Removal Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Marine Cleanup Initiative, Inc., the Operations Director, the Board of Directors, the Advisory Board, and hundreds of volunteer divers and boat captains have operated for 13 years to remove marine debris such as monofilament fishing line, casting nets, cargo nets, batteries, anchors, chain, rope, bottle cans, and fishing gear from our Indian River Lagoon estuary, their spoil islands and tributaries and inlets of St. Lucie County. These efforts are accomplished by divers using their own time, their own equipment, and risking their own lives to provide this needed public service to protect our most important natural resource. These efforts save thousands of birds, fish, turtles, and other aquatic life from certain death through the elimination of all debris, including ghost fishing items such as abandoned traps and nets. Marine Cleanup Initiative, Inc. has spoken to thousands of school children, set up displays at hundreds of venues, and spent countless hours informing and elevating awareness of the public for the proper disposal of these issues of awareness using a unique and entertaining style while serving as a positive focal point for all. Marine Cleanup Initiative, Inc. has continued to expand operations to include spoil islands and tributaries while engaging citizens throughout the area to participate. This December, Marine Cleanup Initiative, Inc. and its volunteers will remove the 400,000th pound of marine debris from our waterways. Marine Cleanup Initiative, Inc. provides these selfless acts while receiving little fanfare, media coverage, or taxpayer support. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby proclaim the month of July 2013 as Marine Debris Removal Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. This board encourages all citizens and businesses to participate in activities which will assist in the elimination of the accumulation of hazardous debris in our waterways through best practices of disposal. Passed and duly adopted the 16th day of July 2013.
We have Captain Doss with us here this morning from this amazing program. And I tell you, it seems like the more we get into this, the more you guys seem to clean up and make yourselves so useful to our county. We're so thankful for that. If you don't mind, we're going to give you this, take a photo, and would love to hear more about your program.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As everyone knows, debris is picking up. We're very excited. I'm accepting this award for our 400 plus volunteers that are doing all the work. They don't have time to come here today. Since I'm the operations director, I do this kind of fun stuff. They're out there cleaning spoil islands. We've moved to spoil islands and tributaries this year because we've realized that as much as we clean up the water, if it keeps floating down into the water, we still have to keep doing it. I'm not sure if you'd like me to bring you the 400,000th pound in some kind of block of something so that you can put it on your desk. But nonetheless, we are having a lionfish safari this coming weekend, and we've brought you the poster. We're very excited because Guy Harvey has given us the logo, so this is very valuable, so you can fight over whose office gets it. We really thank you very much for all this.
Captain Voss?
Yes.
How can people join you in this effort? Do they have a website or a place to call? Or
On Friday at 6:30, we're going to be at the Riverwalk Community Center in Fort Pierce, where it's a mandatory meeting. You can sign up and get on a boat if you're a captain. You can come there and divers will go out with you. You can also go on our website, which is www.treasurecoastlionfishsafari.com, and sign up there. All the rules and regulations or forms are there. But the meeting on Friday at 6:30 is mandatory. If anyone knows the location of lionfish that they would like cleaned up, just let us know, because we're going to go get them.
and they're good eating, right?
They're absolutely good eating, and it'll be a really great time. Also on your desk there, we gave you a nice red burgee. You'll see there's no advertising on that, so it's good for hanging on your wall. And what that points out is that this is coming up on the end of our 3-year federally funded program, which we intensified going into the lagoon and cleaning up this debris. Otherwise, we'd only be at a couple 100,000 pounds. But because of this, we were able to get fuel and equipment to go out there. All of our volunteers are volunteers.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a great program. We have a couple of exciting presentations this morning, and we're going to begin with 2 awards that the county actually received. These are through the National Association of Counties Awards. We received 2, and with that, I'm going to ask for Justin to come on up. Justin Cattuso is with our Solid Waste Division, and he's going to tell us about a special program. I thought we should have had a little bit of like Bad Boys music playing or something, because this is that kind of a story. And so with that, Board, if you don't mind, I'd like to have you come down first so we can give him the award, as well as after the photo, he has some great things he wants to tell us about it. So if you don't mind coming down for our award, we'll do a photo with. Where's Ron? Ron, come join us for the picture. Guys, let's go walk up over here. So that, why don't you tell us some exciting things about how the landfill and crime are working collectively in a positive way?
Will do. The Fleet Watch program, which started actually in the second quarter of 2011, is comprised of county, city, and private workers who receive training through local law enforcement to actually spot and report suspicious or criminal activity while conducting their daily job responsibilities throughout the community. The Fleet Watch program has grown to encompass over 240 vehicles, and over 2,000 watchful eyes have now been placed on the streets to help reduce crime, aid local law enforcement officers, and actually assist members of this community. It's a joint effort between Waste Pro, the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Department. We have the police departments from both the city of Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce involved, and every county and city department that has on-road service vehicle has been involved. We actually have, if you don't mind, 4 successful outcomes that I'd like to highlight out of our many. The first was recovery of a gun utilized during a crime in the city of Port St. Lucie, which you can see in the slide here. It was discarded actually in a dumpster, but through the network and connections of the Fleet Watch, we were able to recover that gun and divert the truck. We've also recovered stolen property from a case that occurred in Vero Beach, assisted an elderly man from Miami who had diabetes and dementia, I believe, who was located up here in the city, and also provided prompt medical attention for a citizen who was involved in an accident. I guess he went off the road and was in a wooded lot, had a seizure. So the Waste Pro personnel actually spotted that thanks to their training and got him support.
Good job.
Well, with that, I appreciate it. And on behalf of the Solid Waste Division, we definitely truly appreciate your recognition on this.
Good job.
Great. He's being a little humble in some respects. I mean, it's been a really neat program to see how it's come together. And obviously, there are a lot of people that look at the solid waste department, and they often just, see things that may involve trash. But it's neat how they have turned this into such a successful program. And thinking about the gun, I mean, when they started telling me what went into that and how they were able to analyze and figure out where exactly in the landfill it was located, and it was amazing to hear the story, but it was really cool how they were able to collectively work with all the investigators and make something that at first seemed impossible very possible. So kudos to your team. We appreciate that.
Thank you again, sir.
Thanks.
Good
Yep.
job.
Excellent. All right. One more successful program that we want to talk about, and with that I'm going to have Ken Giulia come up. He's going to tell us about some of the neat things that have been happening with our Cooperative Extension Division. And with that, Board, just one more time, if you don't mind, get a quick photo here. We just a little exercise this morning.
We also bring up the
Let's bring up your folks that you have as well, because we have several certificates we're going to provide this morning. We'll go right up here as well.
quite a few people.
You can keep whoever you want up here.
Oh, does anybody want to join me up here? Yeah, sure.
So with that, why don't you tell us about the Sea Turtle Friendly Beach Campaign Program?
Thank you, Commissioner Mowry. I appreciate the opportunity. Good morning, Board. My name is Ken Giulia. I'm the county's Natural Resource Extension Agent. And I'm here with a bunch of wonderful people, some of who are sitting down, representing the Sea Turtle Friendly Beaches campaign here in St. Lucie County. There are 3 species of sea turtles that nest on St. Lucie County's 21 miles of pristine beaches. 2 of those 3 are listed as endangered, and 1 is listed as threatened. They are all protected under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. One of the things that people may not always be aware of, however, beachfront lighting is a severe issue. And when lights glare on the beach, that causes a few things to occur, or possibly occur. Mama sea turtles, the research has shown, prefer nesting on the darkest beaches possible. So if the lights are too bright, she does something called a false crawl. She'll haul her 1,000-pound mass out of the ocean, which takes quite a bit of effort, look for the darkest spot, and if she doesn't feel comfortable enough with the beach, she'll go back in, and then she has to do it all over again. And then when the nests are laid, sometimes 100 to 150 eggs are in those nests. The hatchlings come out midsummer through the fall. The hatchlings look for the brightest horizon. Usually it's the brightest moonlit horizon. However, if the lights are too strong and the sea turtles can see them, what happens is the sea turtles, instead of going towards the ocean, which is what they would normally do, they turn around and they go towards the high rises and the lighting. And it endangers them. It puts them in threat of being preyed on by predators, run over by cars, and things like that. So the Sea Turtle Friendly Beaches campaign directly addressed that issue. There were 3 components to this. We had mosquito control and coastal management. Jim David and his department were responsible for lighting evaluations on a good portion of the 21 miles of beaches. And those lighting evaluations were published and produced and turned over to code compliance, which were then responsible for going out and making the initial contact to let people know that there were issues with their lights. During that whole process, The Extension Office is involved, along with tourism. We have public information and the media folks here with the county. We're out there doing our best to educate the community about the needs to reduce lighting and comply with county code. Some of the results that we've had, in 2010, 86 lights identified as non-compliant actually came into compliance. In 2012, there were only 3 properties out of 90 that were surveyed that were found to have high-intensity lighting, so there was an improvement there. 1,254 people participated in extension programs and learned how to comply with sea turtle lighting requirements. Extension, in conjunction with code compliance, made recommendations for new parking lot lights that are being considered for installation at the UDT Seal Museum. Extension and the Florida Master Naturalists continue to make public presentations and nighttime site visits to help beachfront residents with any questions that they might have regarding lighting. 48 million people viewed highway billboards on I-95 and the Florida Turnpike that were directly addressing this lighting issue. 33 tabletop displays were used and we distributed 28,000 educational brochures. 2,000 window clings and 1,000 door hangers were distributed. 6 press releases and more than a dozen newspaper articles were written. And we also produced TV shows through SLC TV. Finally, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation is reporting that we have improved nesting trends here in St. Lucie County. 2001, we had severely low numbers of nests. 2011, we had record numbers. And we were in full swing with this program at that point. 2012, we also were able to sustain very high numbers of nests, and I believe this year we're probably going to continue with that. So with that being said, I'd like to acknowledge quite a few people. Karen Smith, of course, with the Environmental Resource Department, and Anita Neal, the Extension Director. Susan Munyon, who is sitting back there. She came up, she is the 4-H and livestock agent for St. Lucie County, and she came up with the logo, Sea Turtles Prefer the Dark. And we have Tracy Bryant with UF Graphic Arts, who helped us develop quite a few of the graphics. We have Monica Barrios, and we have Danielle Williams, who were the code compliance officers who were making quite a few site visits, and they were helping out the residents with their issues. Jim David with mosquito control, who is in the room somewhere, helped out with the evaluations. Charlotte Byerly was in charge of helping us. She's with tourism. She helped us out with the billboards on 95 and the Turnpike. And then we have Eric Gill and Mike Loss with media, who did quite a bit with TV shows and press releases and so forth. And then we have some public, some community supporters. We have Joe Moore, Florida Master Naturalist with Ranger Construction. We have Marcia Kopp. We have Cindy Christie, along with Tiffany Brady, Bill Benton, and Diane and Ben Goldberg. These Master Naturalists helped out with public presentations, and we went out and made quite a few site visits at night, helping residents out. And then finally, we have Jan Widmeyer in the back. At the Manatee Center, Jan, along with Leslie Vincent Ryder at the Manatee Center, gave us an opportunity to conduct quite a few public presentations there, and they also served as one of the locations for displays. So we were able to get quite a few people reached through that method. So with that being said, these are the people that helped.
Great job.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
All right. With that, just a note here, we did add item 7B3, and that is to the county attorney's office, and that was put on as well yesterday. I want to make note of that item. With that, we're going to turn to general public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to address the board, please feel free to do so by coming forward. Just ask for your name and address for the record. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, my name is John Moeller, and I live at 5217 Northwest Dyrell Street in Port St. Lucie. And I've been here. This is my 3rd time. First time I'd spoken about 750, I'd probably talked to 100 people. The next time 150. This time I've spoken to probably close to 200 people. I'll be standing in line in Publix, and instead of looking at the Star magazine, I'll ask the person behind me, have you ever heard of this program? I haven't found one person yet that has ever heard of this program. I don't know where the public participation is in this planning, but I haven't found it out of 200 people. In conversations with them, one of the things I found out is that when I was at the conference for 3 days, one of the descriptions they give of your inner city, where you're going to have your focal point for your mass transit, they call that a bullseye. And I think that's a very apt description of what it's going to end up being. It's going to end up being a bullseye. And I think there's unintended consequences that they never thought of in this planning. And they would be accidents, terror, and natural. An accident would be something like you have Florida East Coast Railroad coming through the city of Fort Pierce. I'll use that as an example. You have 100,000 plus people living there. You have a propane tank that explodes, or a chlorine tank, or it's carrying some other hazardous material. Let's say it's something from the power plant. Who knows? And here you have 100,000 plus people sitting there, and you have an accident. It is an accident. It is a derailment of the train. Or in the case of fire, here you're going to have, if I live in my neighborhood, I talk to my neighbors. If a neighbor's house down the street burns down, more than likely mine isn't. Even if it's my neighbor's house, mine isn't going to burn down. But if I live in this multi-use community where I have a restaurant sitting underneath of me or somewhere in my block, and it has a fire or an explosion, it's going to take out a whole bunch of houses, I mean not houses, but apartments, and there's going to be loss of life, where if you live in a separated community, you're not going to have that. And that's just an accident. All you have to do is look at inner city accidents to see that most people don't want to live like that. Which brings up the threat of terrorism. I mean, if it's an accident, imagine what it's going to be if it's terrorism, and they're going to blow up a train in one of your bullseye cities. Or hazardous waste. Let's take, for instance, your high-speed rail. If you're going to cross over the Roosevelt Bridge, and you blow up the hole in a bridge, you may take out a dozen, 20 cars. Imagine that same bridge, you blow it up and you have a high-speed train on there with 400 people. So you get a real threat of terrorism, which through mass transit, fire, or hazardous waste could be a real problem for the 100,000 plus people living there. And then there's the natural disaster. We're all familiar with hurricanes. I've lived here since 1967. If you take a Category 4 or 5 hurricane like you had in Andrew, when I first moved here in 1967, I lived in Homestead for several years before I came up here. In 1992, when I was working for Southern Bell, I went back down there to help with the reconstruction. I was absolutely shocked by what I saw. Entire communities were leveled, flattened. It's not only the 130, 50-mile-an-hour winds, but it's the tornadoes they spawn as well. You take a bullseye city like here, and you have no private way of getting out. You're dependent on mass transit. That mass transit stops to operate when you get about 40 miles an hour winds. You're going to have a couple 100,000 people sitting here on a bullseye on them, and you're going to have a hurricane bearing down on them. You got 24 hours notice to get them out of here. You're not going to get them out. And if what I saw from Andrew happens to some place like Fort Pierce, in conclusion, I'd like to say I hope that in your disaster plan, there's money in there for tens of thousands of body bags, because you're going to need them. Because if anything hits like an Andrew or a Katrina on one of your bullseye cities and levels that city with mass transit, no way to get out, there's going to be severe loss of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Peter Bullock. I live at 3120 North Highway A1A in Fort Pierce. And I'm disturbed by the 750 plan. I feel that the 750 plan is bad for property owners. The plan itself is completely devoid of any protections for individual property rights. In fact, the plan attacks individual property rights. I think the 750 plan is bad for St. Lucie County taxpayers. It perpetuates local addiction to federal money. Federal money is not free. The federal money comes from you, from your wallet, and from my wallet as federal taxpayers. The problem is that it returns back to us. In fact, I'm actually employing grant writers at St. Lucie County to get my money from the federal government back. So I'm paying people to get my own money back. And when it does come back, it's entangled with all sorts of strings from the federal government as to how that money is to be spent here locally in St. Lucie County. Federal solutions are always one size fits all. And that's exactly what 750 is. 750 is getting rolled out all across the nation, and they have different names, but it's essentially one size fits all, and it's not tailored to the needs of the citizens of St. Lucie County. 750 is bad for our future generations, our children, and particularly our grandchildren. And as far as I'm concerned, it's completely unethical. Federal grants, federal money in general borrows 40 cents of every dollar that it disperses. Federal grants are actually forcing debt upon St. Lucie County citizens. It's money that our children and our grandchildren are going to have to pay back. 750 destroys local government control. It destroys the regional plan will be the vision that St. Lucie County has to follow. And that regional plan is largely going to be formed by Miami-Dade. That's the largest representative contingent in the region. And so the influence over the large cities are going to be what winds up in the 750 vision. Essentially, this control is this process of getting federal money is exactly like addiction. It's like drug addiction. It's identical in the process to drug addiction, where you like how something tastes. It's free or relatively free. It tastes good, but you have to keep going back and getting more. What we really need is a rehab plan for St. Lucie County. And finally, the 750 plan is attacking the constitutional right of individuals to own and use property as they so choose. Other than that, other than those items, I think 750 is just peachy. So, as far as I'm concerned, St. Lucie County needs to withdraw from this federal quagmire now, while we still can. Indian River County has already led the way. Because Indian River has already withdrawn from 750, by rights, we should actually be calling this monstrosity 650, the 650 plan. And I call on you as our county commissioners to turn that beast into a 550 plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Austin, 6250 Arrowhead Lane, Vero Beach. And I have seen the plans for Fort Pierce and the transit hub that's being planned for actually Fort Pierce and Sebastian. So thank you for bringing that up, John. My son is an elected official in Los Angeles County, so I've been following some of the issues out there. And this is California. Everything you see in green are lands that are owned by the federal government or the state of California. Everything in yellow is about to be purchased. This is a fairly recent map. This is happening in Florida. We're about 23 to 28% of lands that are going to be off limits to the citizens of the state of Florida. Indian River County Commissioner Bob Solari says that we don't talk much about liberty anymore. During World War II, my Uncle Bruce Shigley's job was to carry dead bodies of our young soldiers off the battlefields of Europe. Our nation has paid a high price for liberty here and abroad. The main purpose of the federal government is to protect specific liberties. It is not to control us under the cloak of private-public partnerships, sustainable development, smart growth, the Western Land Study, the Wildlands Project, the Mega Region, the Blueways Program, conservation easements, greenlining programs, the Southeast Florida Caribbean District, or any other nefarious behind-the-scenes plan, known or unknown to the public. And I might also add, topping this list, it's more of a state program, but it's Florida Forever. I'm very concerned about this program. We are experiencing unprecedented levels of regulation and control. 750's form of regionalism is leading the way. What is the reason for the slow and steady, quiet implementation of these programs? The citizens of St. Lucie County elected you in good faith. 750 and their top-down, predetermined plan is not our system of locally represented government. In my opinion, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council has been completely co-opted by 750. There is not one person in this room today that does not believe in good stewardship of the land or responsible long-term planning. And by the way, I was an exhibitor at the Nature Conservancy program they had here in the county at the Fort Pierce State Inlet Park. But this is best done by you, not by outside, unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats with massive federal funding. I strongly urge this board to reconsider your partnership in 750 or any other similar program. With all due respect, I ask you to please ask yourself, does participation in 750 bring us closer to liberty, or does it bring us closer to socialism? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Austin. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you all again. I'm Phyllis Fry, 275 Date Palm Road in Vero Beach. As chairperson for the American Coalition for Property Rights, we have members in all 7 counties now, and I've been asked to speak. I would like to begin where I left off on July 2nd at the BOCC meeting when the clock stopped. I was presenting the financials for 750, which has managed to spend, with no deliverables, over $1 million of taxpayers' money to create what I call the Committee of Perpetual Existence, while they plan their sustainable communities for us, which are to review clusters of low-income, HUD, high-density population, 800-square-foot cubicles of stack-and-pack high-rises with demographic quotas built without garages adjacent to mass transit at every rail stop between Miami and Orlando. It is the ugly truth of government planning, replete with drugs, crime, and prostitution everywhere it has been attempted, including the original Great Society. You can wave goodbye to your privately owned home if you are advocating 750's plan for reengineering how and where we live, since it dovetails with our current administration's plan for a massive redistribution of wealth and a tax-based sharing arrangement called robbing the suburbs to pay for the sustainable communities under Building One America. Please Google it. In turn, 750's planned housing and transportation project works hand in glove with all aboard of Florida using combined grants from HUD, DOT, EPA, which will inflict unprecedented debt upon our Florida economy, that will promote massive government dependency, not prosperity, as they so spaciously claim, while paving the way in debt in the form of indentured servitude for your children and your grandchildren, taken to the depths of infinity and multiplied for forever. But let's not look too far ahead, shall we? No, let's take a look at history instead regarding trains, the other component of 750's plan, which includes a few inconvenient facts. Chief among them, not one passenger trail system in the United States operates at a profit. Amtrak incurred the greatest debt up until now at $563 million. All aboard Florida will far surpass that number, having already asked for a $1.5 billion startup loan, with Florida's Tri-Rail system subsidized at $34 million. It will soon have its counties headed for a $30 million hit to their general funds, with 2 rail system hemorrhaging money. Why would we make a malinvestment in a third? This is not free enterprise. It is government welfare But the FDOT wants me out of my car, so I suppose it's all worth it. As for 750 sustainable communities, they are part of central planning under regionalism, where unelected bureaucrats wield the money and therefore the power and decision-making. And locally officials, that's you, will become little more than rubber stampers who will provide respectability to the bureaucracy with no say in the decision-making, but there are you to quietly carry their water. One more look at history, or the new urbanism, as it is euphemistically called by architects of 750. It is nothing new. It is the same old Soviet-style planning that will lead to the same undesirable results and will fail for all the same reasons it failed in the Soviet Union. The new urbanism methods rely upon government-mandated restrictions on private land use to prevent suburban sprawl, replaced instead with upward sprawl. Statistics show that individual freedom of choice reigns. 80% of Americans prefer to live in single-family homes and privately owned automobiles. If government-mandated restrictions are necessary to increase population density, this suggests that people left to their right to individual freedom of choice would choose lower densities. So as the 750 plan unfolds, one that is so good that it requires the enforcement of the federal government to make it succeed, choose carefully. While you still have the choice to opt out of this plan, you will not have that choice much longer. But when the next level of grants come, the feeding frenzy will begin at the trough and resemble the closest thing to eternal life on the planet that any of us could conceive of. But we must remember, a good parasite never completely kills its host. You can no longer claim ignorance. You're educated now. You don't have to pass it to find out what's in it. You know what's in it. If you have any unanswered questions, my office is open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. ac4pr.org is the website. Do not thank me now. Thank me when you've withdrawn from 750. With all due respect, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fry. Oh, no, I just said thank you, Ms. Fry.
You did have a question?
No, I said thank you, Ms. Fry.
You're welcome.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's good to be here today. My name is Mary Burton. I'm at 5209 Silver Oak Drive, Fort Pierce, Florida, and I'm here this morning to address you about 750. You've heard all about the planning and different things. I would like to talk about the tax-paying voters being removed from their elected officials. My first request is that you opt out of 750. My second request is that every taxpayer and business in St. Lucie County should be made aware by their elected officials about the plans for their county before we even think about proceeding with this plan. Most people we talk to daily have never heard of 750. I mean, when this plan takes place, it involves everyone's lives. They really should know about it. And I'd like to ask you if you could make a plan to make everyone in this county aware of the plan so they can share their voice while they still have a chance. My second thing I'd like to talk to you about is, where does this lead us? Right now, the tax-paying voters of St. Lucie County are represented by elected officials. We can call you, we can see you, we know you, you're in our communities. How long is that going to be possible? Where are we going with this? Where we become a part of a region where boundaries no longer have any meaning. Right now, we have boundaries, we have elected officials, we have areas and districts. Pretty soon, who will be our elected officials? Will they be elected officials? Will they be appointees who will make decisions for us? In North Carolina, their region has been discussing regional police. Really? Is that where we want to go with this? We are getting further and further away from the freedoms that people gave their lives for. Think about that. Regional police, regional district councils, UN agendas. Where does this leave each community? We will be in oblivion. We won't be able to reach out and pick up the phone and call our elected officials and say, can you help me? Because we won't even know who they are. I think this is where a plan this big leads to. I think we should preserve our liberties and our communities Because as I see it, regionalism destroys one neighborhood at a time. And we will lose our identity. This is what most people came to America for, is to find their identity and to live free. And regionalism is taking us back to the European plan that everyone left to come here to get away from. And I'll just leave you with that thought today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Linda Otteson. I live at 1450 Southwest Salini Avenue in Port St. Lucie. A couple of remarks that preceded me rather triggered my mind, and I suppose the saying is valid, that we tend to flash back to happier times. I am wondering why it seems to be imperative that our local governments, our state governments, and our federal governments wishes to impose upon us that which is decided by the United Nations, in which we have no elected official, and who are so hyper-bent on making us pay for the rest of the world, while at the same time demanding that the American way of life is not sustainable. I have arrived at the conclusion that whenever I see the word unsustainable or sustainability, I key in immediately to the communist agenda, which is what this is. Everything to do with 750 comes straight from the United Nations Agenda 21. Anyone who wants to think about it just a little bit knows how global warming was maneuvered, falsified, shoved down our throats, but we coughed it up until we proved it was invalid. So they changed the name to climate change. We are not playing games here. We're playing games through the United Nations with the future of the greatest country the world has ever seen. People who want to flash back to living in the era that Rousseau of France wished, as opposed to our foundation, which is coming through John Locke of England, and the laws which allow us property rights that makes us different than any other country in the world. It trails through our history. Going back to being a child, I remember very well Mr. Perdue, who was very busy building his chicken business. He was a friend of my father's, friend of mine. He carried cantaloupes to load on a plane for me when I was flying back to Florida, because there wasn't a decent cantaloupe in the state of Florida compared to Maryland's. But they were, of course, long ago days. I do not wish to live in a chicken coop, because I remember Mr. Perdue and my daddy talking, and Mr. Perdue says the best chickens are the ones that run free, not the ones that are raised in chicken coops and wire cages. So to this day, I will not eat any chicken that doesn't have a Perdue label on it. If we are to become chickens in a chicken coop, fed drop by water, dispensed to us to agree with the United Nations idea that the United States consumes at 100 gallons per day, per person, far too much above what they consider sustainable of 15 gallons a day. Europeans, by the way, use somewhere around 50 gallons a day. Of course, we have more swimming pools. We have more luxurious lawns. We have more wide open spaces. But we shouldn't worry about that either. I hear on one occasion and one article that we should fear 14-foot tide rises, which is false. And on the other hand, we're worried about water shortage. If we want to think about using our brains, since World War II, our flat tops and our submarines have had desalination. A flat top today creates 400,000 gallons of water per day for its 5,000-man crew. We have the knowledge, the genius in this country to deal with whatever may be down the line. We do not need someone planning to put us in chicken coops and take away our rights. Thank you very much. I hope you will consider facts instead of United Nations figures.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. I've been here before, so. My name is Matthew Renson, 2833 Southeast Peru Street, Port St. Lucie, Florida. I'm another detractor from 750. We're here because we're scared to death of this program. And you may have been told that we're scared because we don't understand it. Not true. We do understand it. We are not under a misconception of the 750 plan. I can tell you we understand it completely and what it is at stake. If you're inclined to support the plan, you've been duped. I can't add to what everybody's already said. They've already said everything almost. But I can tell you that they may tell you there's no connection to Agenda 21, but this is misleading. There is. All right? We can prove it. They'll tell you that we have a need to do this for the environment. Okay? Global climate change and CO2 footprints. This is all bogus. It doesn't mean anything. It's not real. We can prove it, too. We have proof. Almost proof. And I've only 5 minutes here, and I can't prove that in this venue right now, but I'd be glad to talk with any of you on the side, to let you know. There's a host of other issues as far as freedom and being able to choose what you want to do with your property and so on and so forth. There are philosophical reasons for not going into the, not approving this 750 plan. And that's all I have to say for now. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Renson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
My name is Lee Lamson. I live at 2412. That's Lamson. I live at 2412 Southeast Bordeaux Court, Port St. Lucie. I'm a 20-year resident of St. Lucie County. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things that have been dwelled upon in regards to climate change. And I'd like you to get your pencils out and please write down, and those in you in the audience can do the same, write down the website of www.spaceandscience.net, www.spaceandscience.net. John Casey, who we've invited in to speak to our groups, and actually spoke at the summit in West Palm Beach last month, has done extensive research on climate change and has proven with a host of international scientists from around the world, corroborated on the fact that there has been no climate increase changes for the last 14 to 15 years. And in fact, the trending is going down. He's got the scientific data, not based upon bogus science that has been presented in the past, but based upon credible science and the fact that there is no real threat to sea level rising whatsoever. So what that leads me to believe is, why is this agenda of climate change, what is causing that? And I would submit to you that it's based upon follow the money. The good old adage, follow the money. Once you can get people to believe a bogus fact or theory, and you can keep dwelling upon that, you can then base raising funds or giving grants or raising taxes or whatever based upon that false data and science. And if you really do your due diligence in this, and even perhaps even have Mr. Casey to come in and speak to you and explain to you scientifically why this is fact. The whole basis of this science is based upon carbon footprints. And he has proven that that has been a false science in the what do you call them? The modeling has never been correct. It's never been correct. And he can prove that his modeling has been correct almost 100% of the time. So why do we follow this whole bogus idea that everything that we need to do is based upon false science that's proven to be false? Okay? So I just raised this question to you. Do your own study. And then once you've seen that, question, why are we doing this in the first place? You know, why are we talking about having to raise funds from the Department of Transportation to raise the whatever it is to put off any sea level rise when there is not going to be any sea level rise? Okay? Why are we going to raise our highways 5 to 6 feet and spend all that millions and billions of dollars when there is not going to be any such thing? I've been to every one of the executive meetings for the last 3 meetings and the summit. And everything is based upon false assumptions that are not true. So I challenge you, all of you, to do your due diligence, research this thing, and then ask, what the heck is all this about? It's follow the money. And by the way, folks, this country is broke. We can no longer continue to suck on the federal udder and continue to try to take money. And until you elected officials understand that this is not sustainable, and that's intended pun, okay? It's not sustainable. Eventually, this country will go broke. And because we continue to want to take money from the federal government to serve our own political needs or what we think are perceived community needs, then we're just taking and facilitating all of this. So we can't do it anymore, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Mowry, Commissioners. Craig Munt, North Hutchinson Island, for the record. At your last meeting, you approved the continued progress towards expansion of the waste treatment plant on North Hutchinson Island. And as it was not a public hearing, I didn't have an opportunity to speak that evening, but I'd like to take that opportunity this morning. First of all, it was 5 years ago that this first was under discussion to double the sewage treatment plant that we have out there on the island. Of course, nothing's more controversial than waste treatment in a residential neighborhood. And of course, our first choice from the island standpoint was to get it off the island somehow by new piping and tie into the facilities over at Fort Pierce. But that was not to be, and so we met many, many times. And my purpose this morning is to thank the St. Lucie County Utilities Authority and Ms. Lori Waldy particularly and her staff. There were innumerable meetings that we had with she and her staff. They brought in their consulting engineers. We were involved in every step of the process, and the result of that was that they were able to reduce the original size of the plant that they had proposed. They reduced the footprint of the plant. They found that there was more equipment that was more efficiency than what they had originally proposed. They added landscaping to the facility so that it minimizes the impact. They're covering the processing tanks with covers. And all of this was as a result of a collaborative effort. And in the final analysis, they came out on the island and had neighborhood meetings as well with those most impacted parties. So I'd like to thank them on behalf of the residents of North Hutchinson Island. I'm not saying that we look forward to an expanded waste treatment plant, but it certainly was it shows what can be done when there is participation, and the county staff is to be commended, and we thank them very much. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Munt. Appreciate that. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I didn't come prepared to speak, but I just want to say that I am a proud co-founding member of the American Coalition for Property Rights, and I am a lifelong Florida resident. I was born and raised in Miami, and I now live in Vero Beach, and I'm very happy with Vero Beach. There's a reason why there's this migration north, because people want to get away from the concrete jungles, and they want to get away from the road jams and the public transportation mess, and the quality of life is unsurpassed in Indian River County. I'm very proud of the fact that we exited 750, and I would encourage you all to do the same. As we know, this is funded by HUD, DOT, and the EPA, and the EPA has a long history of property rights abuses and confiscation. And HUD has, so we say social equity is a big issue with 750. Along with that come quotas. And so what the 750 organization is doing quite successfully is mining our gold and passing it on and redistributing the wealth and giving us back a few nuggets for the favor. So I would encourage you all to do as Indian River County has done and to exit 750. I think that would be the best thing for property rights and for your for the members of your community. Thank you very much.
Just name and address for the record.
Lamar Noter Giacomo, 1725 8th Avenue Southwest, Vero Beach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? That will close general public comment. Turn to the consent agenda. Any item wishing to be pulled for separate vote or separate approval? I'd like to have item I pulled, which is the proposed millage rates. Date for public hearing. Any other items?
Mr. Chairman, move approval of consent agenda with the exception of the item pulled.
Second.
We have a motion for the consent agenda, except for item I. Any discussion on any other items? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. In terms of the proposed millage rate, I want to have that one pulled separately. I know that for that one, I'll be voting against the proposed millage rate increase that's being shown for the mosquito control district, and as such.
And Mr. Chairman, for clarification, this is a setting of the proposed millage rate to which will not be heard officially until September, and this millage rate is just a placeholder so that the trim notices can go out to the public for public comment. We will not be setting the millage rate officially for the tax year until September. I just want to make that clear on the record.
Yes, that is correct. It does show a proposed millage rate increase, and as such, that's the reason I wanted this pulled for a separate vote.
And it is to which
So that's
division? It is not for the general fund, correct?
This is for the mosquito control district.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear, that it's mosquito control and not the general fund or fine and forfeiture.
It doesn't matter whether it's general fund or not, it still is a millage rate increase, so your taxes will go up. So
I think it's important for the public to know that that's the case. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just following up on your comments, I know we had discussion, and I'm hoping that we will have more as the different public hearings come through. It are informal in regards to this, and at this time I'm going to support this because I am comfortable with the fact that it can always go down, and I would beg the board's indulgence as far as if there is an increase to have the consideration to bring it down the next year.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hutchinson, I believe that we have the ability in each and every year to raise and lower millage rates, and it's based on the ad valorem taxable value, and I think it's our duty to maintain proper revenue flows and to not exceed that which we need to manage the county's government. So I appreciate your point of view. Thank you.
Any other comments this morning? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Motion carried.
And again, to point out that those will be in public hearings after the trim notices have gone to the public so that the public can review what the effects may be to their tax bills.
That will turn to item 8, public hearings. County Attorney, we will start off with Mr. Dan McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a public hearing. Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri will be handling this item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As stated for the record, Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. And what you have before you is Ordinance 1322, and it's amending the building and building regulations of the St. Lucie County Codes. Specifically, it is going to be dealing with the Certificate of Competency for contractors. This did go to your Contractors Licensing Board on at least 3 separate occasions for discussion, and they had passed it with a recommendation of approval to pass it on to the Board of County Commissioners. There are 3 areas that they are recommending that we change on the Certificate of Competency. The first is to do with the letters of recommendation for contractors applying for Certificate of Competency. Previously, they needed 3 letters of recommendation, and none of them could be by blood relatives. Now they are recommending that 1 letter may be by a blood relative because a lot of contractors work for family members. And in consideration of that, then, though, they're asking now that all 3 letters must be notarized. Secondly, on an expiration, they are recommending that if a contractor has let their license not be renewed and they have not had it renewed for a period of 5 years, that now they have to retake the examination for their area of specialty. And the reason for that is that the building codes are updated approximately every 3 years, so if they have not been practicing in the field and have not been taken the examination in the last 5 years, they feel that their skills may not be up to date. And thirdly, on the reciprocity, that's where we accept someone who's been approved by another municipality. We are just making the same condition in there about the 5 years so that if they haven't had an exam in 5 years and were out of the field for 5 years, they also would have to take the examination. This has been published in the papers on July 5th. The board previously gave us permission to advertise this, and staff is recommending approval.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item, please feel free to do so at this time. Seeing no movement, we'll close the general public comment portion, return to the board.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. That will turn to item 2.
Mr. Chairman, Assistant Commissioners, again, for the record, Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. These are 2 code cases that we're bringing to you, asking for permission to abate unsanitary and unsightly conditions. The address of the first one is 3407 Avenue O, Fort Pierce, Florida. It is overgrowth and needs boarding up. It went to the Code Enforcement Board on May 21st, 2013, and they ordered us to bring it to the Board of County Commissioners to request permission to have staff or an agent go on and abate those violations. Third one is 2110 Jacobs Road, Fort Pierce, Florida. Again, that went to the Code Enforcement Board on May 21st. The issues again are overgrowth and weeds and boarding up of openings, and they ordered us to bring it to the Board of County Commissioners for permission to have the violations abated. The notices were provided to the owners, and we've had no contact, and staff is recommending approval.
Any questions for staff? Yeah, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time, please feel free to do so. Seeing no movement, we'll close the public hearing portion, return to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval staff recommendation.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. That, Community Services. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Diana Weslowski, Housing Manager. I'm back again with my list. The item before you is a requirement of Florida legislation to prepare an inventory list of all real property owned by the county that can be used for affordable housing. The list is required to be updated every 3 years and also to hold a public hearing. The list, I believe, was provided in your packets, and also a copy should be before you. We have a total of 5 properties presently that we own, and I think that's about it. So if you have any questions that I could answer, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question on these, simply because we have so many veterans coming back who may have lost their homes to foreclosure, having been in such a long, several wars. Is it possible for us to set aside properties for veterans' preference? Because I think we owe it to them, but is that a possibility?
At present, the grants that are funding these homes don't allow or don't provide a set-aside, but I would like to say that Wayne T. Gardner, who's the Veterans Manager, is in our division, and we work very closely with him and try to accommodate any veterans that he sees. And, you know, we always work, again, very closely. If he has a referral, we're there to help. So definitely it's on our radar, and definitely we try to accommodate that and be there to provide that assistance.
And I appreciate that. No veteran should be homeless. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
We had a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That would turn to our regular agenda. This is County Attorney's Office again, Midway Road improvements. This is about the 4-laning of Midway Road from South 25th Street to Selvitz Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my item, and I'll be handling it. As you indicated, this relates to the Midway Road Improvement Project. It's a project that's been long coming. We are nearing the end of the right-of-way acquisition. We are making every effort to try to avoid condemning property. We try to negotiate purchase wherever possible. With that in mind, we are down to less than 10 parcels. I think we have like 7 or 6 parcels left to go. This is one of the parcels that we need to acquire. This particular parcel will involve a acquisition of actually will include the house because of the location of the house near the right-of-way. The acquisition will impact it such that we will end up basically taking the house. This particular property owners have lived in their homes for over 36 years, and the acquisition will require these folks to rebuild their home on the property to the south that they also own. They do not want to relocate out of the area. They have family in the area, and they really would prefer to stay in the area. As we always do, we had an appraisal prepared by a licensed appraiser, in this case Mr. Fuller, Dan Fuller. He determined, based on his appraisal, that there was a value of $137,300, which includes $800 for a temporary construction easement, which would allow the county to remove the house. We submitted the offer to purchase as we are required to do. The attorney that represents the property owner made a counteroffer to the county in the amount of $300,000, which is outlined in a letter dated June 26. The June 26 letter outlines contingencies in addition to the counteroffer price. That would be A, that the property owner would receive a curb cut on Midway Road at no cost. 2, or B, the property owner would not be required to pay impact fees for construction of the replacement house. C, the property owner would be able to join in a unity of title the remaining property to the south. D, the property owner would be given 150 days to remain on the property while the replacement house would be built. And E, the property owner's attorney's fees and costs would be paid currently in the approximate amount of $12,000. That's actually a requirement of state law. Mr. Chairman, members of the board were required to present any offers of settlement to the board for consideration. In this case, from a staff perspective, the conditions, not talking about the monetary offer, but the conditions, I believe, from a staff perspective are acceptable. The curb cut is certainly no problem. There would be no requirement to pay impact fees in any event because we're replacing a house. A unity of title is something we'd actually encourage, and clearly we understand that there would be a need to relocate and there would need to be a certain amount of days given to remain on the house. And payment of attorney's fees and costs is required by state law in any event. In terms of reviewing this from the board's perspective, we asked Mr. Fuller to provide some parameters, which he did. The actual cost to replace the actual house would be, according to Mr. Fuller, about $213,000, actually $213,500. With any settlement offer, the way I try to look at these things is we at least to start off looking at a best case, worst case scenario if the settlement offer is accepted or not accepted. In the best case scenario, the case would proceed to trial before a jury, and the jury would accept the value of the county's expert, in this case $137,300. In the best case scenario, though, the county would still be obligated to pay for the county's expert witness costs as well as the costs and some attorney's fees incurred by the property owners. It's likely that these costs would exceed $35,000. In a worst case scenario, the jury would value the property at $300,000, at least as far as we know now. As with the best case scenario, the county would still be obligated to pay its expert witness costs as well as the property owner's expert witness costs. In a worst case scenario, the county would also have to pay increased attorney's fees of approximately $54,000 because of the increase in value determined by the jury. It's likely that the amount of fees and costs in a worst case scenario would exceed $75,000. With regard to the specific settlement offer in front of the board, county staff does not recommend that the board approve the settlement offer as presented. No appraisal or other information was provided to support the proposed $300,000 purchase price. Staff does, however, understand the impact of the county's acquisition on the property owner's resident, as well as the property owner's desire to rebuild their home on the adjacent property. County staff does believe it's appropriate to try to settle these issues, if at all possible. In that regard, county staff suggests that the board consider authorizing staff to make some counteroffer with not to exceed $213,500 based on the value by Mr. Fuller. The counteroffer would include the other conditions in the June 26 letter, which are acceptable to staff. Let me pause there. There's some clearly the value of a counteroffer would exceed the amount that we've currently offered, $137,500. From our perspective, from a staff perspective, it could go no higher than $213,500 because that's the actual replacement value. There is other options in between. Another way to look at this, as I indicated in my presentation, it will cost us about $35,000 even in a best case scenario to litigate this, even if we were to win on all issues. $35,000 plus $137,000 would be about $172,000. That is an option for the board to consider. There are other options that you could decide anywhere in between. We do think it's appropriate that the board at least consider addressing a counteroffer. In my discussions with board members on an individual basis about this, it did come up about perhaps relocating the house. That has not been suggested by the property owner, but it is an option that we could actually discuss with them. We would certainly need to find out if the house was in, not all houses can be relocated. Some, I'm not an expert in this, believe me, but some houses can be, some houses can't. We'd have to determine that. There are people that do that. We would need to get a cost estimate of that. So one option would be to make a counteroffer and to offer the option as a possibility that they relocate their house, and that money would come out of the offer, and then they would still have cash left, presuming that the cost to relocate would be less than the amount of the counteroffer. Again, I don't know what those costs are. They're typically $50,000, $60,000. It depends on the house. We would have to get information, and I'm not aware at this point that the property owners are interested in that, but that is an option for board consideration. So in terms of staff recommendation, and I apologize for the length of the presentation, but it is, I think, an important thing for the board to consider. We recommend that you reject the settlement offer as presented, but we do recommend that you consider making a counteroffer in the amount not to exceed $213,500 or some amount less than that, based on the amounts provided by Mr. Fuller. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Available to answer any questions. Mr. Powley, our county engineer, is available in the audience. Ms. Riley, our acquisition manager, is also available.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Questions for Mr. McIntyre? Questions for Mr. Powley? No questions at all for either of you. You've done a good job in briefing us, I know, ahead of time, so thank you for that. How would the board like to proceed on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that we give Mr. McIntyre and our staff a chance to go back and renegotiate an opportunity for success that is comfortable for the property owner and for the county. With that, I'd suggest a motion for staff recommendation for approval.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motion and second. Any other discussion on the item? I too concur. I'm glad to see that staff has remained diligent in that. I realize that the market has changed and fluctuated back and forth, but I believe that we just want to be very careful with our taxpayer dollars as we move forward on these items. The widening of Midway Road is a very important project to the county, but it's also one we want to make sure that we're careful with how we proceed. So thank you, staff, for your diligence on that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we'll turn to the announcement portion of the meeting. Anything that any commissioner would like to add, or staff member?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the public on behalf of the Fort Pierce Exchange Club for their participation in the chili cook-off, a very successful chili cook-off, and absolutely positively want to thank the staff at the Fenn Center for doing an incredible job. The effort of trying to have 35, 40 teams with 10 or 15 volunteers setting up their incredibly, extravagant booths and working with our staff. It's unlike any other professional event where they're professional, vendors who come in. These are all just regular people off the street trying to do this thing. And the staff at the Fenn Center did an incredible job handling the whole thing, and it was very, very successful. And I'd like to point out that the Board of County Commissioners team won 2 awards for their effort, and all of those who participated in the Board of County Commissioners in raising money, to let you know that a minimum of $40,000 is going to the Boys and Girls Club, and after expenses, I believe it'll be a little bit higher than that. And so it was an incredible effort, and all the sponsors and all the media and everyone who's been participating in the chili cook-off for now 31 years. I just want to say thank you and our gratitude across the board, and the Boys and Girls Club are going to be very happy with the effort. So thank you for all of that.
Wow. I just wish you'd put a little bit of effort into the event. I mean, I feel like, had you would have known what it's like to be tired. I think I saw you barely surviving towards the end of the day. You put a lot of effort into that. So thank you as well, Commissioner, for your efforts on that. It was duly noted. So
thank you very much for that.
Good event to have been held here in our community. Other comments that we have: there is an informal monthly meeting on Tuesday, August the 13th at 9 a.m. and then we'll be holding a joint meeting with the City of Fort Pierce on Thursday, August the 29th Any other comments from the attorney or administrator?
No, sir.
Great. Middle of the summer. Hope everybody's doing well. I know my kids are just anxiously waiting for school to start. No, maybe not.
Just wanted to stop raining.
Exactly. With that, is there a motion for us to adjourn?
There's a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. With that, we'll turn to the Mosquito Control District. This time we'll call to order for the Mosquito Control District. Is there approval of the minutes from the June 18th, 2013 meeting?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. General public comment. This time we'll turn to the general public. Anyone wishing to address the district, please do so at this time. Seeing no movement, we will close the general public comment. Consent agenda. 2 items. We have warrants as well as the county attorney's expansion
Mr.
of
Chairman,
the district.
approval.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, we have the county attorney's public hearing. Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assistant County Attorney Heather Young will be handling this item.
Good morning, Ms. Young.
Good morning, Commissioner Maury. Good morning, Commissioners. As Mr. McIntyre stated, I'm Heather Young, Assistant County Attorney, and you have before you today a public hearing on 2 petitions that were submitted by property owners, Kennedy Riverland 2 LLC and Kennedy Riverland LLP, to add their property to the district. They own and operate together approximately 3,857 acres, which are used for citrus grove, lying in the city of Port St. Lucie, south of the Tradition area. The petitions represent 100% of the property owners of the subject property, and although the Special Act requires a referendum to add property to the district, that can be waived in this event when you have 100% of the property owners submitting petitions. So staff is recommending that the board adopt the resolution attached to your package, which waives that referendum and adds the acreage to the district. This is a public hearing, but as I said, staff is recommending that you waive the referendum requirement.
Any comments or questions for staff?
I guess looking at, because it's a pretty large area, and I guess, Jim, this would be a question for you, from the cost aspect, are we going to be able to afford to cover the cost of that expansion? I don't know how many homes are on that, or the amount of money that would cost to cover 3,000 acres in mosquito control, but you're the expert.
For the record, Jim David, Mosquito Control and Coastal Management Services Director. Right now, there are no homes on it. We control aquatic weeds down in those areas that produce Mansonia diarrhoea, which is a vector of St. Louis encephalitis and dog heartworm. So it's an important area to be able to control the mosquitoes in. We don't believe there's going to be any issue of insufficient funds to manage that area if they join.
And as you told me before numerous times, mosquitoes know no boundaries, I understand. So I think it's important for the rest of the community.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just love the Latin that he always throws in.
It just went by me.
Vector of encephalitis. Yeah, it just went over.
All right.
You are an amazing guy. Thank you, Mr. David. Any other comments for staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. At this time, we'll open up the podium to the general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the district, please feel free to do so at this time. Seeing no movement, we will close the public hearing and return to the board.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, County Attorney.
Thank you.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
We'll come together as St. Lucie County's erosion district. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of June 18th. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. General public comment. Seeing no one, we'll come back to today's consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes. And I just have one last comment. As of yesterday, the Army Corps is scheduling a meeting for Friday, August the 16th from 6:30 to 8 o'clock here in our chambers in regards to their NEPA study for the Miami-Dade sand project. So I would encourage you all to get that on your calendars. It would be helpful if we had a united board at that meeting. Other than that, if there's no other comments, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.